Tonight we're going to do something a little different. We're going to go over a very often overlooked miracle that Jesus does. And it's only a few verses long. And if you're not paying attention, you can almost skip over it in the book of Matthew. But I want to go over it because there's some interesting foreshadowing and parallels within this miracle that Jesus does. Now, this miracle takes place in Matthew 17:24 through 27. And it's just before Jesus begins his journey to Jerusalem and the cross. So this was honestly probably one of his last few nights in Peter's house or in the area of Galilee with his disciples. And so, it's the miracle of Jesus telling Peter to go catch a fish, and it will have a coin in its mouth, and he'll use this coin to pay for the tax that the temple tax collectors want. And let's just jump to it. It's Matthew 17:24. And when they were come to Capernaum, they that received tribute money came to Peter and said, Doth not your master pay tribute? Okay, so these are the people from the temple. They collect taxes from all the people to pay for the temple. In other words, it's kind of a tax, a money giving, a debt given, but from the citizens to the temple. In other words, for God's house. Okay, it's supposed to kind of be like a tithe almost, but it's typically, I believe it was more of a mandatory tithe to pay for the upkeep and whatnot of the temple, in other words, God's house. And so they come to Peter and they're asking him, does your master Jesus? So Peter, they first of all recognize right off the bat, Peter's is Jesus' right-hand man. So they go straight to him, and he says in verse 25, he saith, Yes. And when he was coming to the house, Jesus prevented him, saying, What thinkest thou, Simon? So if you read the Gospels, we kind of get a good image of Peter as one of the guys that kind of says things out of impulse. He doesn't quite think things over or even know the answer right off the bat. He just answers. And so in this area, I believe that he kind of spoke more than what he knew. I think he just assumed that, yes, Jesus and us, we paid the tax to the temple. But Jesus stops him coming into the door, and this is what he tells him. What thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom or tribute? Of their own children or of strangers? In verse 26, Peter saith unto him, Of strangers. Jesus saith unto him, Then are the children free. Now this is a statement, not a question. And the King James is almost worded like we would word a question, but it's a statement. So Jesus is making a statement. So the king in this question is God. Okay? Who would God take money from? Strangers or his own children? Strangers. In other words, Jesus is saying, I am the Son of God. Should the children, the Son of God, pay taxes to God? And so, Peter answers, no, it's from strangers. And the next thing is pretty interesting. Jesus says, notwithstanding, lest we should offend them. Now that right there is not something Jesus typically says. Jesus was not afraid to offend somebody. When he wanted to speak the truth, he spoke the truth. And it didn't matter who it aggravated or upset or ticked off. Jesus is going to speak the truth. But this is one instance where he seems to have just not wanted to deal with the tax collectors in this, or the Pharisees and stuff within this subtext. And I believe it's probably because this is kind of his last get-together with his disciples. This is the last real moment he's going to have alone with them before he goes to Jerusalem and the cross. He wants a calm before the journey. That's what I kind of see here. But I wasn't there. I can't tell you what Jesus was thinking, but that's kind of the way I see that. Why he was willing to pay this even though he shouldn't have had to. So Jesus continues in verse 27, "Go thou to the sea, and cast an hook, and take up the fish that first cometh up. And when thou hast opened his mouth, thou shalt find a piece of money. That take, and give unto them for me and for thee." So he tells Peter, go fishing. Go take a hook, throw it out there. The first fish you catch, you're going to have, there's going to be a coin in its mouth, and it's going to be a full denarius. So the temple tax was generally like a half denarius, I believe, or it was a half a shekel per person. That was the tax. So he's going to find a full shekel that would cover both him and Peter. So now this is interesting because let's look at a few chapters back. Okay, let's go to chapter 16, verses 1 through 4. Now listen to the parallels and what's going on. The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came and tempting desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. And Jesus answered and said unto them, When it is evening, ye say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O ye hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but ye cannot discern the signs of the time. A wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. And I want to preface this, dude. They've been seeing signs over and over and over again from Jesus. It shows you right at the beginning of chapter 16, these guys don't have their heart in the right place. They're trying to catch Jesus in this. They're trying to force him to do something that in a bad situation. That's what they're always seem to be trying to do. Their heart's not really looking for a sign to believe. Okay? Because Jesus has performed miracle after miracle. Okay? They wanted to believe the signs they could have. Anyway, and continuing in verse 4, And there shall be no sign given unto it but the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. So the sign of Jonah is the only sign the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the leaders of Israel, will get. So, how does this parallel to this miracle right here Jesus does a few chapters later? Well, as Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days, Jesus will be buried within the earth for 3 days. And Jonah was spat out of the fish and went and preached and brought the people in Nineveh to repentance, and they were saved. Jesus was resurrected the 3rd day, and he brought all the Gentiles in the world to repentance to be saved. Okay? Now here's what's interesting. The parallel here is Jesus has Peter catch a fish with a coin that will pay the tax, the tribute that is required for God and God's house. Now, what does Jesus do himself in a few chapters later? As Jonah, he dies on the cross and pays our penalty and our tax that we owe for the sins we've done to God the Father, so that we can be reconciled to the Father. So do you see the awesome parallels here? Just as Peter went and got the coin to give to the debt collectors, so that their debts would be paid to the temple of God, Jesus would be crucified and buried, and then he would repay our debts for all who would believe on him, that they would have everlasting life. As Jonah went and preached repentance to the Ninevites, Jesus died and brought us repentance so we can be with God as one. The curtain in the temple is red, and we can come confidently to the throne of God. So Jesus, as this miracle happens, Jesus becomes the payment to God for all of us. Now, I hope y'all enjoyed this short video, but I just really thought this was interesting, and I hope it was edifying.